don't think that through technology that we're actually getting the message across that we actually need to do other things, that, you know, we've got all this access but nobody's really understanding some of the bigger problems, and that we seem to be avoiding, and that we are increasing our ecological footprint even though we've got the access to the information that should be telling us that we're in trouble.
We've just embarked on a new project looking at online e-mentoring program, so linking our members in the UK with similar organisations in Poland and Germany, Slovenia and Estonia. And the thinking behind that was actually to say, well, we do a lot of EU-wide networking for associations, for NGOs, but rather than fly people around every time, let's get them communicating, you know, online. And so we've got an e-conference coming up on the 9th of June, and precisely some of the argument was to say, well, we don't actually require as many flights. There will be a final concluding conference, but only one, and just for a couple of days in Estonia. So most of the conference will happen online. And what I would really appreciate actually is from all this expertise in this room is a bit of advice around how we, as quite a new player in this kind of type of area, how we might promote beyond an initial e-conference. Because my worry is we'll have a lot of people sign up on the first day, we'll have a good discussion that day, but how do we sustain that over the following sort of 6 months, maintain a sort of online discussion? Because I can imagine that that's something that other people here have faced and will have solutions to.
What is the first thing you do if you have to find out about people these days? So you go online. So what you've created with your portal is your presence in this world now, online. And that's one tool. So how does that affect the ecological footprint? I don't know. Probably not that much. But then I turn around and I look at your e-conference, and that is a big impact on the ecological footprint. In our company, you know, budgets are tight. I don't get to travel anymore. You know, but I do get to see in almost as good quality as we are now seeing each other, my colleagues every week. That saves pretty much a lot of carbon emissions, I think. So I think we need to ask ourselves the question: what is ICT? What is technology? Is that camera that you have in your hand that enables people to later on view this? Is that this presence that you have online? Is that the video conferencing that you're going to use? I think it's a lot of different things, which actually brings me back to TechSoup, where we actually try, from Microsoft, we offer a part of the solution, Cisco tries to offer a part of the solution, and the other donors try to offer a part of the solution as well. And I think we need to look at ICT as a bigger picture, a lot of different components. And the truth is not in one, but it's in a lot of different things.
Hi, Robin Knowles from Civic Agenda. I just got a couple of thoughts. One is just doing work with the UK government, talking about sort of getting people online and getting services online. The reality is that the majority of senior decision makers are digital immigrants. They're not online. The people who understand what we're talking about in this room, and I don't put my hand up and say I'm one of them, but the people who understand what we're talking about in this room are probably 3 or 4 down at the moment. So I don't know what that means in most European civil services, but they're probably 2, 3 away from the top. So I think the online is really important, that there's a lot of focus on offline. And the other thought is that there's a huge obsession with numbers. But just talking again with sort of senior decision makers, they're starting to talk about wanting to talk to the right 50 people or the right 500 people, and they're not interested in reaching 5,000 or 50,000. So I just sort of put those 2 thoughts in really, that a lot of the people who are making the decisions that sustain the conversations are not necessarily in this space, and they don't understand it when the user numbers get really high.
I'm Paula Johnson with the Philanthropic Initiative in Boston. And just a thought was going through my head during this conversation, and I'm not sure I'm ready to articulate it very clearly, but in a very rich global conversation, I think when we talk about philanthropy, we either consciously or subconsciously, or because of lack of information, go back to talking about a very Western model of philanthropy, and issues about kind of traditional versus new. Even I don't agree with the death of traditional traditional philanthropy even in the United States, but it's definitely diversifying. But if we look at philanthropy more globally, the motivations and the practices and even the intended impact of philanthropy is very, very different from in the United States and Europe. So just for instance, in China, there are 600 foundations formed in the last 5 years, and not one is a grant-making foundation. So a slightly tangential conversation, but one that I think groups like this could talk more about in terms of what philanthropy can, should, and will be doing to contribute in many ways to